Welcome in, everybody. You're watching another episode of the End Zone Panel. Today, I'm your host, Shane, um, obviously with Aiden. We have special guest here, my friend Vinny from Inside New York Sports. How we doing, Vinny?
Doing good, doing good. Appreciate you guys letting me be on the channel.
Yeah, man, fired up, fired up. A lot of stuff going on in New York. We'll kind of dive right into it. So obviously, the big news hit this offseason. Giants hired John Harbaugh. Run me through your emotions and how you're feeling.
Yeah, when I first saw the tweet from Adam Schefter that the Baltimore Ravens were parting ways with John Harbaugh after 18 years, I kind of figured the Giants were going to be at the top of the list and he was going to be the best candidate. And the Giants haven't really had a hire like this since they hired Tom Coughlin way back then. And then, they hired a bunch of first year guys like Brian Dable, first year guy, and a bunch of other guys. So getting a veteran, getting a great head coach in John Harbaugh is something that this franchise has not seen in a long time. So, I'm really excited about the hire. I think John Harbaugh is what this team needs. Just getting a better culture in the building, better, just better atmosphere. Like you get better vibes heading into the offseason rather than maybe running it back with Brian Dable. And, I thought Brian Dable was good and, for what he had to work with, I thought he did a pretty good job. But then obviously blowing that many leads is going to be, you're going to get kicked out of New York, right?
Mhm. Yeah, loved everything you just said. Uh, I was a big fan of Dable. Admittedly, not a huge fan of Joe Shane. I feel like the Giants fan base, it's kind of 50-50 as well. People being in on Shane versus not really being a fan. Um, what were you surprised at all that Joe Shane wasn't let go along with Dable?
I think I was a little bit shocked in a way. I was honestly a little bit shocked when they hired Harbaugh. I thought they were actually just going to let go of Joe Shane and have John Harbaugh be more of this, the CEO type of guy that he is. Um, with Joe Shane, I totally understand a bunch of the negatives to his resume, like letting Xavier McKinney go and letting Saquon Barkley go and all these big names, and then they end up, Saquon goes on to win a ring. Julian Love, Leonard Williams, they go on to win a ring with Seattle this season. So, with Joe Shane, the big thing I think that I've probably criticized him the most has been his drafting. I think the last 2 years have been better, obviously, but you look at his first round picks. Those are kind of layups, like with Malik Neighbors, Abdul Carter. I thought the Jackson Dart trade up, looks really good for right now. But you look at some of his other picks. Evan Neal has not turned out to the right tackle that he was supposed to. They try to put him at guard. He wasn't good enough. I think some other picks. Deontay Banks has been very, very questionable after his rookie season. So maybe he does better with the new defensive coordinator, Denard Wilson from Tennessee. So, I mean, there's a lot
It's
of
a good
red
hire.
flags with Joe Sheen's. Yeah,
It's a
I
good
think
hire.
there's a lot of red flags with Joe Sheen, and I understand why there is definitely a lot of criticism. Now that his job is pretty laid back now with all the new hirings with the, vice president of operations, Dawn, I forgot her last name, but I wouldn't say Joe Sheen. The biggest thing that Joe Sheen has done a good job is building up this offensive line. They ranked ninth in PFF this season, so I'll give Joe Sheen a lot of credit to him. Some of his free agent signings have been very iffy, but um, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily shocked. I honestly thought he was going to stay, but I thought with John Harbaugh going into the building, he might kick him out. I would say.
Hmm. Yeah.
To touch on your the free agency, right? I know you guys the biggest signing last year was Javon Holland. Were you a big fan of Javon Holland? Because I know Giants fans are split upon that.
Yeah, I think with this season he didn't play to the Javon Holland standards that they signed him to. I think I thought he could have had a better year. I also think just Shane Bowen actually found a way to this. Everybody talked about the Giants' defensive line, and they have some good pieces on paper and everything. And then Shane Bowen actually found a way to make this team, one of the worst units in football. And obviously, I think with Javon Holland, I think with a new defensive coordinator, I think he could be better. But him and the Paulson Adebo contract don't look great right now, I would say.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm
Yeah.
no, yeah, I'm no.
What I will say, Vinny, we talked about it last year during the draft. I was a little skeptical of the Giants moving to back up into the first and taking Dart. Admittedly, I will sit here and I will be totally honest. I wasn't. I had a round two grade on Dart. I thought it was a little bit of a reach when they traded back up for it, but man, has he proved me wrong. He came in and he really, Brian Dable, there's a lot of question marks. He didn't start the year out too good, and everyone was kind of waiting for the day. It felt like the whole season. But Jackson Dart, man, he was really a knight in shining armor. Him, Scadaboo. I feel like the vibes were just sky high the whole season. It was. I'm a Jets fan, but I would turn on the Giants game. You guys played Philly Thursday night, I believe. That was the most exciting football game I've watched, and the Giants are not my favorite team. Um, just talk about kind of like this draft class and what it brings to the team and how it could be a building block.
Yeah, I mean, this is a drafting, league, and when you are able to draft players like this and change a culture with getting Jackson Dart in the first round, getting Cam Scadaboo, who some people were shocked that he actually fell to the fourth round because how good of a running back he was in college at Arizona State. You know, these are the two guys specifically that have really changed this culture. I mean, you even see some of the clips that you see of Cam Scadaboo screaming at Jackson Dart of how he ran through that guy's face and, all of the
Yeah.
excitement. So those two guys, they just bring a different level of energy. Obviously, with Jackson Dart, he does have to, worry about how he does play his game, and he can't be in the medical tent every single week. But that's just how he plays. So I mean, overall, I was so glad they didn't take Shadur Sanders, obviously, and they took Jackson
Oh
Dart.
man.
I fucking
You
hate
know,
Schnur,
there,
bro.
there, there was a part of me that actually thought Joe Shane was actually going to mess this up because Joe Shane actually wanted Shadur Sanders, but Brian Dable said that Jackson Dart is more of the fit for what he wants to do, and Brian Dable loves to utilize his quarterback's mobility and everything like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, the excitement's high, even with this offseason. If they are able to nail the number five pick and they pick a good player that could be an immediate impact, you know, the ce- the excitement's through the roof, and I think the expectations, definitely raise for the New York Giants for sure.
Mm. Yeah, man, Jackson Dart, what a joy that was to watch. Scadaboo too. Obviously, Scadaboo got banged up during the year. He's going to be coming back. This kind of rolls me into the Giants sitting here, pick five. You have a really good pick. You just got a solid head coach who I feel like no matter who you pick, he's like Harbaugh's going to be the highlight of the off season. Um, I think another thing too. Aiden brought up Javon Holland last year. The Ravens were notorious for getting the most out of their safeties. So I think if there's one guy that could kind of right the ship with Holland, I think that's Harbaugh and this defensive scheme the Giants will be implementing. Positions of need going into this offseason. I have O-line. O-line, I know Illuminor's a looming free agent. That's a guy you definitely probably want back.
Come on back, bro.
He played pretty solid, especially for the almost swing level tackle of pay you were paying him. I thought he did a good job. Also, obviously Wan'Dale Robinson, slot receiver, the franchise tag. We talked about it a little bit before the stream, but the franchise tag you brought up was about 28 mil. That's obviously too steep. It's going to be definitely interesting to see what teams throw money at him. But going into free agency, I have O-line and corner as kind of your biggest needs. What do you view?
Yeah, I would probably say the top needs for sure is interior offensive line because Greg Van Roten is probably gone.
Oh, he's
And John
horrible.
Runyon, yeah, and John
It's for
Runyon's
all three of
very
our team, bro.
Yeah, and John Runyon's pretty up and down. I honestly expect him to re-sign Jermaine Illuminor because his market value is extremely low. I think it was 8.6 million, and that's like
Yeah.
per season, so you can get him on a pretty good deal. I also have linebackers. I think when Micah McFadden went down week one in the Washington Commanders game, we showed the lack of depth. I mean, we're putting out a seventh round Darius Musaya out of UCLA, who is more of a
Yeah.
special teams linebacker You can't have that as your depth. So, I wouldn't hate them to address some linebacker depth. There's also even a possibility that they might cut Bobby Okereke to save some cap space as well. So, cornerback's definitely a need because Cordell Flott is probably gone. So you have Andrew Phillips, Paulson Adebo, and then a very big question mark in Deontay Banks. Um, and then I feel like those are probably the biggest. Those are probably the biggest needs for sure. Is probably cornerback into your offensive line, and some linebacker help as well.
That's probably
Yeah.
like Kyle's
Going
favorite
into
need.
the drafts, I know I just saw a clip of Harbaugh just raving about Caleb Downs and how he finished out his career at Ohio State. Just an absolute stud, and I feel like that's kind of a can't miss pick at number five. How would you feel about taking safety at five?
Yeah, I think Caleb Downs is probably the perfect fit for what the Giants need. They need better run defense. Caleb Downs brings that. They need more physicality. Caleb Downs brings that. He's a ball hawk. He plays very good. Very good lateral movement as well. And the Tyler Nubin experiment. A lot of people are not really high on him. A bad second year as well. A lot of missed tackles. A lot of missed angle. You could trade him, after June 1st and save 1.6 million, or in 2027 you could save almost 2 million if you decided to trade him. So he's an option of a potential trade candidate. And then you could pair Caleb Downs with Javon Holland, who would have 4 years remaining on his contract. So there's definitely a lot of talk for Caleb Downs at five. But I think if I had to probably say, I mentioned on my previous video that I recently made was Caleb Downs, Francis Muaga, and then if they potentially take a wide receiver in Cardinal Tater, my top three guys on my draft board right now.
Hmm. All
And
right,
yeah,
a guy you didn't mention. I just want to throw this out there. Um, what if you traded back a few slots, then took a Sonny Styles, who anyone that's gotten into the draft will tell you could arguably be one of the best players in this class. He's just a guy. He's a transferred safety. So he started out his career at Ohio State as a safety, then moved to linebacker. 6'5", 240 pounds, can just lay the boom. He's phenomenal in coverage as well. He does everything well. He blitzes the quarterback at a very high rate, very high clip. He's a guy that a lot of people are high on. How would you feel about possibly moving back a few slots, cooping a second that you can maybe grab with your early second? Maybe you take Emmanuel Pregnone from Oregon, who's, in my opinion, and widely regarded as the second best guard in this draft. So you get Sonny Styles at eight, Pregnone in the second, and then take your shot at either safety, edge if you trade Kayvon. How would you possibly feel about that idea?
Yeah, I mean, we even talked, I think, yesterday that Sonny Styles could be a potential fit for the Giants because of their linebackers and, the idea of if they do end up cutting Bobby Okereke to save some cap space. I don't rule out a Kayvon Thibodeau trade. I think a lot of teams are in need of edge rushers. I, point out the Lions as a team, the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think they trade with Dallas because I don't think they want to, give Dallas any advantage. But they're a team that's been always asking for an edge rusher, and then Micah Parsons is always saying, you guys could have kept me, right? But
Hmm.
yeah, I think the Sunny Styles pick is a fun addition. I think even trading back and getting some more draft capital because it doesn't hurt to keep stacking up draft picks and adding quality players in this draft. So I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Obviously, Caleb Downs is my number one, but I think Sunny Styles is definitely in the conversation for sure.
sorry.
Gotcha.
Can I ask you something? I'm sorry, but I
Yeah.
was so rudely interrupted by my roommate. Let me backtrack to free agency. I know you guys have around 7 mil right now, but with Kayvon Thibodeau being coming to his last year, and you guys having Brian Burns and Abdul Carter already, if you guys trade him, you save about 14, 15 mil, and if I'm guessing you do more reconstructions. And with your linebacker need, I wouldn't be shocked if you guys make a run at Devin Lloyd. I mean, John Harbaugh has been notorious for using his linebackers. I mean, they had Roquan Smith, they had Patrick Queen. I forgot who else, but Terrell Suggs was there when he was there, right? I mean, Devin Lloyd would love to play with someone like that. Like, would you want to have your one big free agency spending there and Devin Lloyd, or would you like to see it in other positions of need other than him?
I'd probably say I would like it more scattered around and addressing depth. I think Devin Lloyd is a phenomenal player for sure. And he'd definitely be someone that I would love to add to this linebacking group if they're able to make it work. But yeah, I mean, I think Lloyd brings a lot of what we need, right? Physicality, great linebacker. I think he had like an 88 PFF grade or something this past season, so he's really solid. So I mean, at the end of the day for the Giants right now, it's getting great players and having depth. That has been the biggest problem because their cap space previous years has been terrible, and they haven't been able to address depth. So
Yeah,
that's
fair
probably what I
enough.
have on Devin Lloyd for that. But I wouldn't hate if they did go after him for sure.
I know.
Hmm.
I want the Raiders to go after him so bad. I know
Yeah,
you
I,
want
I
him
feel
too,
like
bro.
another thing too is what separates, great teams from bad teams a lot of time is depth. Because all it takes is one injury to your star player, and now you're throwing out there Wandale Robinson, and then the next guy, Wandale Robinson's about here, Malik Neighbors here, then the next guy is somewhere here. You
Next
kind of
guy's
want you
Darius
kind of want to
Slayton.
even it out a little bit. Yeah, Darius Slayton.
I don't want to see
Yeah.
Darius Slayton on this team next year.
Oh man, you know what sucks? I remember him being like almost an elite number two.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah,
He was nice.
and the crazy thing is actually when we signed Russell Wilson, everyone was like, Darius Slayton deep threat. He actually might have a good year, and then he proceeded to have one of the worst years he's had in the NFL.
Uh, yeah. Um, another pending free agent with some Harbaugh ties. Obviously, I know the second Harbaugh got hired, I saw on a bunch of Giants pages them throwing out this idea. Tyler Linderbaum. What would you think about that?
Yeah, he'd be an excellent signing. If we're gonna throw a lot of money at one player specifically, it would be him. No disrespect to John Michael Schmitz, but he had a better year than he's had in the past. But when you have the opportunity to add a young player who is 26 years old and is one of the best at his positions, you have to throw a lot of money at that player. So I mean, if they were able to add Tyler Linderbaum, I'd even love if they added Patrick Ricard to help out their fullback situation. Just make an awesome running back duo with Scadaboo, and then you have Patrick Ricard opening up holes for him. That would be awesome. I would think.
Mhm.
Yeah,
A
he's
question
expected.
I
Oh, sorry, Shane, go.
No, continuing. Sorry.
Yeah. So Linderbaum's expected contract is 4 years, around 18 mil per year. But I do see him taking a pay cut to go with the Giants as Taylor Harbaugh. I mean, he obviously he was very vocal when it came out of Harbaugh. I feel like you already got an extension done if you wanted to stay with the Ravens. But I think you guys can get him at like 16 and a half, 17 maybe, and then get him for a 4 or 5 year deal. I mean, that automatically gives Scadaboo and Jackson Dart the best center in the game. It's enough time to do whatever they want with the ball.
Yeah. Another. I have two questions for you. One is I didn't follow too closely. Um, how did Paulson Adebo do this past year? I know that was a low key signing that some Giants fans were pretty excited about.
Yeah, he was more up and down. I think he had some okay games, and then he had some games that he looked more lost. I think it just came down to our bad defensive scheme from Shane Bowen. I'm honestly throwing a lot of the criticism at our defense coordinator because like the team on paper it had some hype, right? It had some Dexter Lawrence didn't look like Dexter Lawrence this year, and that's not
No.
very like a Dexter Lawrence season. And Brian Burns obviously had a great year. Very shocked he didn't get an All Pro, but I'm not gonna go more into that. But I think it comes down to scheme and coaching matters in this league clearly, and Shane Bowen is not a fit for us, obviously.
Hmm. Yeah, and one more. Scattaboo, are you going into this year with the idea that Scattaboo, it's going to be mainly a one back offense, and Scattaboo being that workhorse running back, or would you be open to bringing in kind of like a 1A, 1B kind of role and kind of easing Scattaboo in a little bit while still having maybe some versatility on third down? I know Scattaboo, obviously he's fine receiving, but maybe you get a guy for that. What I'm not too sure with Nagy. What's going to be kind of the outlook for that? Is it going to be a running back by committee or a true workhorse?
Yeah, I think the duo with Tyrone Tracy and Scatterboo is what they're going to work with. I don't expect Singletary to be on the team next year, especially that you could save 5 million, I believe, if you cut him this offseason. But I think the biggest thing with Matt Nagy's offense and is a lot of RPOs, a lot of people in motion, which I think with the receiving upside with Tyron Tracy formerly being a wide receiver, sometimes I feel like Tyron Tracy doesn't get as much love. I feel like in as much as maybe he should. But I can understand where people are coming from for how many snaps he gets, and he had gets X amount of yards, etc. But I think
Hmm.
Scatterbill, when he obviously comes back, he's going to be the lead back. He's going to get a majority of the touches. But I think they'll still run that, 1A, 1B with Scatterbill and Tyron Tracy for sure. Maybe they add a depth running back in free agency or later in the draft. But, I think the idea of having Scatterbill, assuming he, is fully healthy, and Tyron Tracy is where the Giants are going to go for their offense in next season.
Hmm.
I mean, 1A, 1B is really where the league is going in the direction of. I mean, we see Jameer Gibbs and we see David Montgomery. Last year had Buck Irving, Rashad White. You're going to have, I mean, earlier in the season, Shane, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they had Brees Hall and Braylon Allen going 1A, 1B. Uh, I think it's easier on the running back one. Like Jameer Gibbs still puts up amazing numbers, but it gives him a breather and it like stops injuries, prevents more injuries. And I do honestly, I'm one of the one people that actually likes Tyrone Tracy. I think he's a very good back. I mean, yeah, for the snaps he gets, he doesn't get the production, but he gives a good change of pace. Like he's a good change of pace back.
Yeah, when I watch Tyrone Tracy, a guy that really strikes a resemblance to him, Rashad White. I feel like Tyrone Tracy's kind of that third down receiving back. He has some athletic upside, but I feel like it's unfair comparing him to like a Jameer Gibbs or something. He was never supposed to be that. I think he's filling his role just fine. Um, but yeah, Vinny, what do you think about Giants coaching staff? How do you think Harbaugh filled it out?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that people immediately point to is that they weren't able to get Todd Monken, and he went to Cleveland uh, for their head coaching. He's their head coach now. Don't love it for the Browns, but that's a whole another thing. But I thought the Matt Nagy, hiring, people don't give it, as much love. I think, he has had the opportunity to work with Andy Reid. And I think he could be a good play caller. I feel like he's shown that in the past. And then for Denard Wilson, I think this was kind of the hire they kind of needed, a guy that's gonna put some pressure on the quarterback. And the Giants didn't get as much as I wanted to because you have Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter, and Brian Burns, and they're not creating as much havoc. And then you're also there's numerous games that you just blow leads that you had the lead like. I think they were one
That
and
Denver
seven.
game was painful.
The
That
Denver
was
game,
brutal.
the audacity to play prevent defense against a kicker in Brandon Aubrey who kicks 60-yard field goals like it's breakfast. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, just some of the stuff that Shane Bowen had to do to try and destroy this thing he did. But yeah, overall, I think the coaching, I'd probably give it a B, B plus probably in that category. I would say I wouldn't necessarily say in the A plus. I think if they got Todd Monken, that would be trending towards an A. But yeah, I'd say for what John Harbaugh had, I thought it was solid. And even, Jesse Minter, now the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, advocated us to get Denard Wilson, which, I think could, help us in the long run as well.
Aiden, you got anything?
I mean, I like Jarno. I like the whole. I don't like Matt Nagy because I do hate the Chiefs, but I just don't like how Matt Nagy. But I do like it because he was the OC and head coach for Justin Fields when Justin Fields was there on the Bears. Obviously, Justin Fields wasn't the greatest passer, but he was a great runner when he was there. You can bring that sort of side over from the Fields, but you surround him when Neighbors comes back. I mean, Russell Wilson threw dots to Neighbors. If Russell Wilson can do it, Jackson Dart can do it even better. I mean, I thought you guys were going to take him at 3. I thought you guys were going to reach up on him, but I was really high on Jackson Dart coming out. Honestly, I was surprised that the Raiders didn't take him at 6 because we do tend to reach on a lot of things. And honestly, seeing how it went this season, I'd rather have Dart. But yeah, I'd rather have a quarterback. I mean, obviously we have one, but I think the Giants have the opportunity to do what the Pats did this season and kind of take that leap into the playoff team caliber. I mean, it's the same story. Second year QB had flashes rookie year of doing something good. You have a better wide receiver one than they do. You have a running back one and a running back two out of committee. You have a better offensive line. I mean, there's no reason why with this type of head coach you guys can't make a run, even win the division.
Hmm. Yeah, one thing quick. Um, what made the Patriots make this jump? They were very good in free agency. They went out, they had an exact game plan of the players they wanted, their archetype of player at every position of free agency, and they went out and got those guys. Let's not forget last year, a lot of us were kind of squinting at the Milton Williams signing, saying, "Ooh, that's a lot of money." He came in and he produced. You look at guys like Robert Spillane, Caden Ellis, all these little guys that stepped in and played a big role for this team. And those are guys you can look at as really depth pieces. Because Milton Williams, they have obviously Christian Barmore, who's very good. We look at Carlton Davis. They have Christian Gonzalez already, a CB1, who's very good. These are true seconds at their position that they went out. They had the archetype in their mind. Okay, this is the kind of player I want. Milton Williams, that's you. Carlton Davis, that's you. Robert Spillane, that's you. And even Stephon Diggs. So I think that's what's the Giants need to approach free agency with that kind of mold, that idea of, okay, we know what we want. John Harbaugh knows. John Harbaugh knows. He's been doing this for long enough. I want my linebackers to be, let's just say, like 6'3", 240, run a 4.46. Go out, get those guys. Get those guys that are going to fit your scheme. I really have high hopes for the Giants. Now, this leads me into this is the last thing we'll wrap up on record predictions. What's your prediction? What's the floor in your mind, and what's the ceiling?
Um, I'd have to obviously, check their full schedule. I think to answer the floor and the ceiling, I would say the floor would be I'd probably say 6 wins. I would say the floor is. I think if they get any lower than that, then that's pretty embarrassing. And I think I think the ceiling. I think they could win 11 games. I think that's the ultimate ceiling. And I also, for what's going on in Philly, what's going on in Dallas, what's going on in Washington. I think if you actually win 11 games, I think you could actually potentially win this division. The thing with
Hmm.
Philly, what is going on with AJ Brown? Their run game, their offensive line coach stepped out of the building. It's a Sirianni problem there. For the Cowboys, if they, I obviously know that they franchise tagged or are going to franchise tag George Pickens. That that team, I feel like, still has a good amount of holes in a few areas. And then for Washington, I mean, they were kind of old last year. I feel like, Jaden Daniels was banged up all the time. Is Dan Quinn really the answer? I feel like he always has. Like that first year with Dan Quinn, it's fun and all, and then that second and third year, it's just a complete dumpster fire. So the big thing for the Giants is they got to win their games in their division. I mean, the fact that they actually were able to split with Philly makes me confident going into this season. With a new head coach, obviously, new coordinators, new everything. some money to spend when they restructure contracts and cut some players as well. I think the Giants have a great opportunity to be a very solid football team for sure, and obviously killing the draft as well. You know, who do they truly want at pick 5 for sure is another big task for John Harbaugh and this staff. And then I guess finally it's just getting really good years out of your big three with Neighbors, Dart, and Cam Scatterbill. I think those are the big three that are going to have to, be very good. And even when they play those tough games, they got to find a way to win on the road as well.
Mhm.
I agree. I think honestly, I think you guys have a ceiling of maybe like 12, 13 wins. I think you guys have the opportunity to, I mean, like you said, how the Pats needed to get these certain little pieces in free agency. I mean, the Giants already have top 10 offensive line. They have one of the best young receivers in the league. They have the quarterback. They have the defensive edge rushers. They have the D line already. They maybe Deontay Banks turns up. They already have Javon Holland in safety. I mean, if they get Caleb Downs, who knows? Sky's the limit, honestly. And I really
Mhm.
hate saying that because I don't like giving Giants any props because Colin Johnson. But I think you guys could make a Pats and even be better than the Pats. Honestly, I think they had a fluke year. You guys could win the division. This could be your division for the next, I don't know, because Dallas ain't making a run. Eagles things done. The Commanders are the Commanders. I mean, I think this could be your division for the next like 3, 5 years, maybe more.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like free agency is going to be very important. Getting those depth guys, linebacker, corner, being kind of feeling comfortable leaving your corner out there on an island because obviously in this division you're going to see CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens twice a year. You're going to see most likely AJ Brown, definitely Avonta Smith twice a year. You're even going to see Scary Terry and if they sign Debo back twice a year. So secondary is going to be important, but I'm super excited for this Giants season. I could see them being like a gritty team, really muscling out kind of a 10, 11, even maybe even 12 win season, depending on the schedule.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing with this John Harbaugh signing is not blowing leads. I think that is the biggest thing that we need to see a change with John Harbaugh because, I mean, how many graphics have I seen from all those Ravens games? They're up by this amount against this amount, and they find a way to blow a lead. So that's the biggest thing that I am going to definitely look out for this Giants team is finding different ways to win and not being very, one dimensional in winning. But I think it's weird actually being excited for what the Giants have given me the last, 10 or so years. It hasn't been this fun. And then 2022 is clearly a fluke year with Daniel Jones and all of that mess.
Yeah, you have your knight in shining armor, man. Let's hope he brings it to the promised land. But Vinny, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. You obviously very knowledgeable. We'd love to have you on the podcast too, as maybe for a mock draft in the off season, and also when the season kicks in and we start seeing how everything unfolds. We'll have you on, talk about the Giants, talk about also the NFL. But thank once again, thank you so much for being on. It's truly a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. All right. Thank you everyone for watching. You've been watching the End Zone Panel. Go give a follow to Inside New York Sports. That's our friend Vinny. He posts great content. He follows the Rangers. He follows the Yankees, and of course, he follows the Giants. He posts pretty much every day. All this stuff's great. I've been following it for years. It's only getting better. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next episode.